Hello and welcome to the Friday, December 11th, 2020 edition of On Iowa Politics. This week, Vilsack, vaccine, lawsuit, and a gubernatorial campaign. Hi, I'm James Lynch of the Cedar Rapids Gazette, and with me today are Amie Rivers of the Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier. Good morning, Amie.
Good morning, James.
Erin Murphy, Lee Newspapers Statehouse Bureau Chief. Good morning, Erin.
Good morning, James.
And Gazette Opinion Editor Todd Dorman. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
You can find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and subscribe to On Iowa Politics wherever you find your podcasts. First up, Vilsack Redux. Redu? I don't know. That's kind of a French word. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But anyway, he's back. He will be back. Joe Biden, who may be president-elect or perhaps president-elect after Monday, or just another casualty of President Donald Trump's greatness, has chosen Tom Vilsack to be his Secretary of Agriculture. The selection is widely praised by Iowa farm commodity groups and the renewable fuels industry. Todd, you've observed Vilsack in his roles as state senator, governor, ag secretary. Are you surprised he'd go back to the USDA?
Well, maybe a little, but he's a policy wonk. He's a guy that enjoys public service and coming up with ideas and making policy, and so I guess in that vein, it isn't surprising. And when the president-elect, for now, of the United States calls you and says, "Would you serve in my cabinet?" You tend to usually say yes to that, and he and Biden go back a ways. So yeah, I mean, he's kind of back to the future with Tom Vilsack, but maybe after this he'll run for governor again or something. I don't know, and eventually serve in the state senate representing Mount Pleasant. So
yeah, and go back
to all the old cops. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Since he was USDA secretary, there have been some changes in terms of the growing emphasis on climate change and sustainable agriculture and sort of how traditional farming fits into the climate change strategies. There's concerns about wildfires, which also falls under the purview of the USDA, renewable fuels, and then needs in rural America for internet connectivity and housing. And Todd, as you mentioned, Vilsack is, if anything, a policy wonk. It's going to be different going back. And do you expect that he'll be different, or that he's going to pursue different policies in his second go round?
Well, I think he'll have to, and I mean, there is some uneasiness, among progressive Democrats with this choice. Vilsack is coming to the job having pulled down almost $1 million salary working for Dairy Management Inc. and the what is it, the U.S. Dairy Export Council. So that in their book is big ag, and he's had a fairly good relationship with large agricultural interests in Iowa over the years, and so there are misgivings that maybe he's not suited to a more progressive vision of what the USDA ought to be doing on climate change and food assistance, and looking at ways to alter the food system that we're in. I mean, we saw during the pandemic how if you knock down one pork plant, you basically crush the food supply chain for farmers and consumers. So we've got this consolidated system, and I think there's a lot of appetite out there for making big changes. So Vilsack is a big ideas guy, but I don't think he was known last time in the USDA as being a big change agent. And he also received lots of criticism for not addressing sort of the racist past and perhaps present of the USDA, and that's an issue that I've also heard brought up by folks who are critical of the appointment.
One of the criticisms, not specifically about Vilsack, but he would be included, is that presumed president-elect Biden, for all his talk about diversity and promises on the campaign trail to be a bridge to the future generation of Democrats, is choosing a lot of elderly people for his cabinet. Vilsack is 69. He'll be 70 when he begins the new job. And it appears that Biden is choosing experience, age over youth, and I guess the next generation will have to wait its turn. So maybe folks like Pete Buttigieg and others will get selected just to bring the average age down to something more representative of the next generation of Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, the Vilsack pick doesn't exactly scream that Biden's got an aggressive agenda for the USDA, although he does have a climate agenda that, a lot of voters who supported him and he's going to have to pursue that. But I suppose he sees, Vilsack as a no waves, trustworthy public servant who won't cause problems, but could come up with some good ideas. I don't know. But yeah,
Well,
there has been a lot of talk about the age of some of the picks.
right. Well, there's been some talk about the age of Biden starting
Sure.
his
Yeah.
presidency older than Ronald Reagan leaving office. But yeah,
Well, in a way, it's easy for him to surround himself with young people, even at age 70. I mean, that's
that's
Vilsack's
true.
Vilsack's just a kid, right?
Exactly. They're all young to him. Well,
Uh,
speaking of the election and who the next president will be, Texas is leading a lawsuit that would overturn election results in Pennsylvania and other states where President Donald Trump believes he was the winner. And Attorney General Tom Miller was thinking about joining a lawsuit that was in response to that would have basically told Texas and its co-plaintiffs to go home and mind their own business. However, Governor Kim Reynolds sort of jerked his leash and told him not to join that lawsuit. And then last night, we learned that she was willing to join the Texas lawsuit to, I guess, defend the president and the election results in at least 4 states. Um, Erin, can you unspool this for us?
I could sure try, but I'm still kind of unspooling it for myself, so bear with me. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well. The one thing I'll note off the top, it was interesting that the statement from Governor Reynolds came from her campaign, not from her um, official office. I don't know if there's anything to read into that or not, but that did kind of stand out to me. Um, Moments after Tom Miller had issued a statement saying he would have preferred to uh, join the defendants in that case. Her campaign issued a statement saying that she had wanted to, her preference would have been to join Texas in trying to overturn the results in those 4 states. It's trying to be as judicious as possible here. Um, Look, the Trump legal challenges have been wildly unsuccessful. That's not opinion. That's fact. That's bared out in the results of all these challenges. They've earned one minor victory that didn't change any vote totals whatsoever, and meanwhile have had more than 50 challenges either thrown out or lost them. And some of the language, if when you read the judges' rulings in these results, has been, remarkably harsh that you don't usually see from judges. So, I mean, this has been to this point a quixotic legal campaign, um, and there's really no evidence to believe that this specific case will be any different. So it was interesting, is a polite word to use here, to see the governor choose to announce last night that she wanted Iowa to be a part of this legal challenge. I'm not sure what is to be gained by that, and I suspect that next time the governor has a press conference, she may be asked about that.
Erin, you mentioned that the announcement came from the governor's campaign organization. I'm wondering if her campaign might join the lawsuit, but not the state.
Well, I suppose that would
Yeah, I mean, they can.
be an option. I don't know legally if that's an option. I don't know how it works. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, and I didn't even stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night. But that would, I mean, if she can't get the state to do it because Tom Miller doesn't want to, from that standpoint, maybe that's a good point.
I mean, it seems like they could file an amicus brief or something like that, similar to what was it, 106 Republican members of the U.S. House
Right,
did,
right.
including Iowa's Steve King. If this challenge is successful, perhaps he'll seek to overturn the results of his primary election that he lost back in June.
Slippery
Oh,
slope, right?
can 2020 get any more weird? Don't answer.
Yeah.
Well, looking ahead, a former campaign operative for Representative Cindy Axne and Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren's Iowa caucus campaign reported that the internet address sandforgovernor.com has been registered with the domain name system, leading to speculation, or more speculation, that Iowa State Auditor Rob Sand is planning to run for governor in 2020. Erin, it comes as no surprise that he might be laying the groundwork for gubernatorial campaign. Iowa Democrats have been eyeing him for higher office ever since he ran for auditor. Is this the first step for Sand, or is he covering all his bases, or maybe just toying with Governor Reynolds and her team?
Yeah, is it? I think Rob Sand is capable of a little bit of trolling, so maybe there's that. But I think it's more likely that it's at the very least somewhere in the middle there that he's covering all his bases. It's possible he has made up his mind and is preparing a run. That's certainly possible, and we've all been watching him, wondering if he has his eye on either of these two races coming up, either the gubernatorial race or the U.S. Senate race. I think the more conventional wisdom has been that he'd have more of an eye to the gubernatorial race, and he has been on his personal Twitter. It's not been uncommon for him to challenge or criticize Governor Reynolds from time to time. So this wouldn't be in the least bit surprising. It's certainly noteworthy that that step has been taken, and we'll all keep watching, and things will probably start picking up after the holidays here. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be at all a surprise if this was one of those steps in the process of Rob Sand preparing to run for governor.
Of course, Sand is a relatively common name, so maybe some other Sand in some other state is planning to run for governor. I also wondered whether someone planning a campaign would register one domain name, but not all the combinations: Sand for Iowa governor, Sand digit for governor, and so on, rather than just one domain. So I guess maybe that's something to keep an eye on if he adds more domain names. In the meantime, Amie, with Trump and Texas challenging Biden's win, and Rita Hart asking Congress to overturn the election results in the 2nd District, is it too soon to be talking about 2022 governor's race?
Hell no. We're hoping to get to that next one, I think. my suspicion is it's an old Sanford governor site from Mark Sanford and But anyway, I would not also be surprised if Rob Sand was toying with a run for governor. I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Walz was toying with a run for governor, to be honest with you. He's been a rising star in the party the last few years. And he just rocketed like Obama with that first speech that he gave to the Iowa legislature back when they were discussing whether to, do anything about the gay marriage that had passed in the courts, and made this really stirring speech that made the rounds and sort of like propelled him. Mm-hmm. Ever since then, I really thought he had, his eyes set on the governor's office. So that wouldn't surprise me. He might I know he and Sand are pals. I've seen, their photos together helping out at the derecho and things. So it also wouldn't surprise me if he backs a possible Sand campaign. But heck no, we should be talking about 2022. Let's talk about anything but 2020 right now.
Exactly. Anything to take our mind off 2020. Todd, there's been a lot of speculation about which Democrats might run for governor, and Mark Nolte, the director of Project Better Together in Iowa City, has indicated he will make an announcement soon. He's been hinting that he'll run for governor for some time now. The project goal is to, quote, build a transformed future for our community with greater economic diversity, growth, inclusivity, resilience, and well-being for all. I expect that's going to sound like People's Republic of Johnson County talk to a lot of folks in rural Iowa, but at least he's not from Des Moines, right?
That's true. Although I don't know that Johnson County, in the eyes of voters across the state, is any better than being from Des Moines. They root for the Hawkeyes, maybe, but the rest of the stuff in that county, I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
That's the only bone we're throwing them.
Yeah, exactly. We go to Kinnick and we get out of there. But
slowly,
he might bring, he'll of all the candidates, he'll have the best dance numbers because he's co-owner of a dance academy.
There you go.
Academy. So we could see production numbers at his rallies. I mean, it might be bring back some of the pizzazz of old Hollywood to
the campaign
in Iowa.
Yeah,
exactly. Or they could do ads that he's dancing around the issues. Maybe it's a double-edged sword. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's not early because, I mean, really, if you're going to run for governor, you've got to have things put together by, this upcoming summer, maybe late summer. If you're going to put something together, there's probably going to be a primary with some Democrats. But yeah, you mentioned Sand, you mentioned Zach Walz. Those are names that I've heard. I'm actually surprised at how few names I've heard at this point. Usually by now, you're starting to see people make moves, but maybe the defeats of November for Iowa Democrats have sort of left them a little discombobulated at this point.
If Sand is planning to run for governor in 2022, I guess that's good news for the Grassley family, Chuck or Pat, whichever one decides to run for the Senate in 2022. So they're probably happy to see this development. And because it is 2020, we're going to talk about the coronavirus. Amie, the big news this week, other than Sand for governor, has been the announcement that the COVID vaccinations may begin in Iowa as soon as next week.
The vaccine's here.
I'm ready. I've got my freezer turned down to minus 94 so I can store a batch or two for people who prove to me that they deserve to be vaccinated.
You'll have to take an extra day to thaw your turkey before Christmas.
Well, yeah.
Let the feeding begin.
So, Amie, should we be rolling up our sleeves?
Yes, we should. Although, obviously, with a caveat, you're not probably going to get one unless you're a healthcare worker or working in a long-term care facility for a while. There's only that limited number. And of course, you need the 2 shots. Now, they're saying they're going to roll it out to, however many we're getting. That many people are going to get it. And then they're counting on, the manufacturers coming through with more doses. I am cautiously optimistic that that's going to be the case. But you guys remember, we're still in 2020 and everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. And I can totally see a world in which manufacturers just something goes wrong or, just don't have enough. So I want to say to people, it's great that we're ready and we should stay ready. But if there's also delays, just keep wearing that mask because, it's going to be a long 2020 into 2021. Probably.
Yeah, because it's 2020, I keep thinking about, a train load of vaccine plunging off the bridge somewhere on its way across the country, or a plane load of vaccination, vaccinations crashing or something of that sort,
in
A
2020 it would.
a literal train wreck. That would be
Yes,
right
yes.
on the nose.
In 2020,
that would be deserving.
in 2020, the vaccine train would hit a bus filled with orphans on the way to a Christmas celebration. And I personally, I know that if the governor's office has anything to do with making this list, which I think they do, I know that I'm going to get the very last vaccine available. I'm going to be.
Sorry, Todd. We only have half a batch here.
Sorry,
Mr. Dorman. I don't see your name on the list here.
We've only got this. We've only got this Russian vaccine that we brought in. It's you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You
Yeah.
took it. It's fine.
Yeah, herd immunity, all that. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God. Well, Amie, also this week, COVID related, the state once again changed how it's reporting COVID-19 data. And what I'm hearing is that this was the right decision, but complicates things for people who are tracking the data, infections and deaths, because it's makes it even harder to do an apples to apples comparison.
We're just
what happened?
relying on the state. Yeah. I mean, that's all we can do, right? Like, we don't have access to these labs independently. We don't have access really to, even the county health directors are getting their information from the state. So everybody's just sort of like, okay, this changed. I don't know what that means. I mean, I tried reaching out to Bremer County, which rocketed up from 14 deaths to like 24, 25. And they don't even have an answer as to why. All they can do is point to the state changed the methodology. So somewhere in there, it just happened, right? So yeah, it's, it definitely probably was a good change. And there's gonna be a lot of questions about why, and there should be, especially after this is all over, the postmortem, what happened, what are the lessons learned. That's really a time when we're going to need to, because the next pandemic will be coming. That'll be the time when we really are going to have to sit down and be like, let's have a standard, let's make it transparent, and let's make sure that everybody has all the information that they need at every step of the way, because that's the problem that health departments have been running into and hospitals have been running into with lack of testing. It's a mess, and it just continues to be a mess. We're slowly trying to learn and get better, which is, I guess, the silver lining.
Todd, go ahead, Erin.
Sorry, I was just going to add, because Amie made a good point there about in the aftermath of this, and when people have a chance, researchers have a chance to look back and analyze all this and everything that happened. Director Garcia, the interim director of the Public Health Department, actually talked about that specifically as one of the reasons they made this change. Is this method of counting is more consistent with the way that public health departments track deaths related to other diseases. So this will, when all is said and done, as Director Garcia put it, 5-10 years down the road, this will enable them to make a better apples to apples comparison of the way COVID impacted the population, when compared to other pandemics and other diseases. The question that was raised was, if this was always the best case, why haven't we been doing that for longer? Because the federal government and other states have been doing it this way for longer. But I guess
Todd,
better late than never.
As Amie said, the conversation now, while they've determined that healthcare workers and people in long-term care facilities will be the first people to get the vaccinations. Beyond that, do you expect that we're going to get into big arguments about who should be next? I mean, who is an essential worker? Who is a frontline worker? Obviously, newspaper reporters and editors are essential. But for some reason, I don't think we're going to be at the head of the line. Are we going to get bogged down into those sorts of debates about, okay, how many lives are we going to save, or how many years of life can be saved and protected?
Well, I think there will be some arguments about that. And I guess the way we conduct ourselves will tell us something about ourselves. But I think judging by how many people don't want to wear masks or any of that stuff,
Right.
maybe we're already not doing so well on the
Mm-hmm.
social responsibility front. But yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be the first few uh, waves of the vaccine. The school teachers and folks that work in grocery stores and things like that. I think
Mm-hmm.
most of us can
Mm-hmm.
agree that those are folks that need to be, whose job requires them to be around a lot of people all day,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we need them. We
Mhm.
need education and food.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those, but yeah, we're going to get into like sort of into the 6th, 7th, and 8th wave of the vaccine, where it's going to start to maybe be some argument as to who should be getting it and all of that. So,
Or maybe by that point, enough people will have opted out of it that we'll just
well, that's the
walk
other
into
thing.
any
I mean,
Walgreens and get it.
this is going to be also as we vaccinate, it's also just kind of another giant clinical trial, because
Mm-hmm.
there have been reports of people having allergic reactions and things like that, and hopefully not a lot of that will happen, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, it's going to be a test of patience, and this is not a patient society, I don't think, but maybe we'll rise to the occasion, since we've been digging a huge hole under the occasion for the entirety of 2020.
Yeah, I've heard people make the argument that you should have to, if you didn't wear a mask, you shouldn't get a vaccination before somebody else
Yeah,
gets theirs, and things like that. It's just, I mean, yeah. Well, here's a picture of me back in April with a mask on. Please give me the vaccine.
yeah. If we get into that, I think it's going to be a long spring.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I do wonder about all the people who say they won't take the vaccination. They won't get the vaccination because I kind of think that after this starts, it's one of those things where people are going to say like, "Yep, I better get it," or
Yeah.
somebody else is going to say to them, "You better get it before because you're not going to be able to come back to work until you have
Yeah.
this,"
Right.
or those sorts of things. You can't go to a restaurant if you can't go to a restaurant until you, uh, you know, can show that you've been
I,
vaccinated. I think that
Sure.
people probably will quietly accept this. They may be against it now, but um, you know,
Well, and
I've seen stories,
they'll
James, to your point. And I don't know if this will come to be or not, but I've seen reports that suggest, things like getting on an airplane or once concerts start back up
right,
again or going to
right.
like, massive sporting events, that those things may require some certificate.
Immunity passport.
Yeah,
well,
essentially.
but it'll be easy to tell because we'll all have the microchip that's being put into the vaccine to
Don't
track
know, Todd.
us.
Just have to scan right?
Yeah, just one quick scan, beep, you're in.
Oh, you're in. Okay.
Love it when we end on a conspiracy.
Well, before
Uh,
we go, uh, as a helpful reminder to listeners looking for a stocking stuffer, the Trump 2021 calendar is now available. That prompted
Oh.
Gazette Statehouse reporter Rod Boshar to wonder whether it's just a 20-day calendar and what's scheduled for January 20th. Well, that's it for this edition of On Iowa Politics. I hope it was worth your time. If you like it, tell a friend and subscribe to On Iowa Politics at iTunes and Stitcher or wherever you find your podcast. Fan mail may be sent to podcast@thegazette.com. And you can find us on the home pages of the Quad City Times, Sioux City Journal, Muscatine Journal, Mason City Globe Gazette, Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier, and the Cedar Rapids Gazette. Porch Builder will take us out. If you know an Iowa band or musician who should be on our show, send us a sound file and subscribe to On Iowa Politics. For Amie, Erin, Todd, and our producer Stephen, I'm James Lynch. Thanks for listening. Stay well.